Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video on, obviously, my YouTube channel. So recently I've really got into thrillers. So what I mean by this is I've been reading Frida McFadden. I've been just finished a book by CJ Tudor, which I guess is kind of a thriller. I finished a book by Sabine Durrant today, which is going to be a part of another video I'm doing about authors that I DM'd, and then I asked them for their favourite book, and then I read their book, and I'm going to give a review on those, so stay tuned for that. But as a result, I'm on a real big thriller kick at the moment. So I thought what I would do is highlight some of the best thrillers that I've ever read, and then I would show you them, and I would talk a bit about why they're my favourite thriller, what made them so amazing, and then at the end, I'll give you a roundup of probably trying to order them into my top 5 in terms of 1 to 5, which is my favourite, and then you can suggest which is your favourite thriller. So stay tuned. So I'm going to try and do this list in a really odd order. It's not actually that odd, just the order in which I read the thrillers, because I'm probably going to start off not remembering a lot about the book, just remembering that I loved it. And then I'm going to get to the most recent one where I could probably tell you the whole entire plot with all of the characters. So the first one on this list is We Begin at the End by Chris Whittaker. Now this is pretty much the only contemporary book that when people ask me what's my favourite contemporary book, I say at the moment. Every other time I say East of Eden or To Kill a Mockingbird, which obviously aren't contemporary, they are classics. We Begin at the End by Chris Whittaker is brilliant. It focuses on the story of a couple of young children, one mainly called Duchess Radley. She's a 13-year-old girl who's grown up essentially in a really rough family. Her mother is all she's really got left. Her mother is Star Radley. There's a history to the town in which she lives. A cop kind of comes back to this town, or somebody is released from prison as well at the same time, and everything starts to kind of boil up at the same time. What I can remember from this book is that Duchess Radley herself is utterly fantastic. Probably the best child character I've ever read, up there with Scout in To Kill a Mockingbird and the two young men in East of Eden as well. So you can tell I'm really somebody who enjoys a fantastic character. This one, as I said, focuses on the return of somebody who I think was accused of murdering somebody at the time. He then returns, it's all a bit dark, everybody's a bit scared of him, but essentially what happens is then this covers the story of how Duchess Radley deals with this, how the cop that is kind of her friend and her mother's friend as well, deals with all this as well, and it's their stories of one another. As you can tell, I can't remember a vast amount about the plot. I just remember that's what's in it, and that's what I tell people about. I tell them the characters are fantastic. It was utterly gripping. There were parts that were heartbreaking. There were parts that were inspiring. Everything about it was written so beautifully. It almost felt poetic. It really, really was fantastic. Definitely one of the best thrillers I've ever read. And as I said, it's one of the few contemporary books I recommend to people when they say, what is one of your favourite books of all time? It really, really is fantastic. I know Chris Whittaker's had another book come out recently, and I need to get that. I don't know why I've not gotten so into that yet. But, so We Begin at the End by Chris Whittaker is the first book on this list. The second book is The Last Thing to Burn by Will Dean. Now this I picked up purely, I think, at the time because I wanted a quick read. Sometimes when you're reading, you just want a book where you know as soon as you pick it up, or quite quickly after you pick it up, not as soon, you're going to finish it, because sometimes you just want a quick win with reading. My two favourite things about reading are starting books and finishing books, and if the journey in the middle is brilliant, then that's all the better for it. The Last Thing to Burn by Will Dean is one of those books that's not particularly long. It is just over 200 pages, but is incredibly gripping. This is one of the few books that I read nearly all of physically, and it was so intense. Essentially, it covers the story. I say essentially in my videos, by the way. Maybe you should play some sort of drinking game for that. But it covers the story of a woman who is trapped in a house by a man. She's been there for a long time. She's been convinced that essentially certain things are happening, certain things will happen, and she's kind of accepted the life that she lives. Then there's something changes, which means it gives her reinvigorated hope to escape and a reason to leave. There are twists, there are turns. I was literally up late reading. This is one of the few books I've ever stayed up late to read. I was up late reading this, feeling really nervous, like genuinely scared at points, generally like there was some round about to trap me in a house, something like that. Really, really intense book. So that's probably the highlight of the book for me. The characters were great. The villain was very, very scary. The main character, you kind of read mostly from her kind of point of view. Really, really genuinely fantastic character. And it makes you feel for her. And it's just, as I said, I think the best word to say is just it's intense. If you talk about thrillers in terms of things that are thrilling, that make your heart rate go, that make you genuinely scared, that make you think, oh my God, I would never ever want that to happen to me. That is what happens in The Last Thing to Burn. I can't tell you why it's called The Last Thing to Burn, but you'll find out if you read it, and it's not a long read as well. I could not recommend a quick, easy read more than Will Dean's The Last Thing to Burn at the moment. It really, really is fantastic. The order, as I said, I'm doing these books in is the order I've read them in, so this is the third longest ago book I read. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, fourth. There's some words. Great at this YouTube thing, aren't I? Anyway, The Last Thing to Burn by Will Dean. The next book is The Mysterious Case of the Alberton Angels by Janice Hallett. Now, Janice Hallett is one of my favourite authors ever. She's brilliant. She writes books that are completely different to anything else you'll ever read. Essentially, all of her books are kind of in some sort of different format. So, I'll focus on my face. You have them in kind of emails, and you have them in texts, and all sorts of different things. She's got a few out. Mysterious Case of the Alberton Angels is her most recent. It's brilliant. It covers the story of a true crime author, Amanda Bailey, who decides that she wants to cover a cult that happened years ago and the death of the missing case of one of the children of the family that was involved in the cult, if that makes sense. What then ensues is she gets very involved in it. She goes to try find some of the members of the cult that still exist, some of the survivors of the people that were part of the cult, to try and patch this all kind of together. Along the same line, she has an author called Oliver Menzies. He's just as smart, bit better connected, he's a bit of a bigger author. He tries to also take on this story, equally getting as deeply involved as she does with the cult and their kind of message and some of the story and the story of what happened with the cult at the same time. Unfortunately, this creates a really, really tense situation, really, really good one. And the reason it's a thriller is because despite the fact it's told in text messages and emails and correspondence and things like this, you really feel like you're a part of the story. One of the things that's really clever with the way that Hallett has written this book and all of her books, and one of the things that it allows her to do, is cover people's personalities in a way that a traditional book really can't. So with a traditional book, you obviously just have kind of paragraphs of speech, and in there you can only really kind of give them personality by putting in personality and maybe an accent if you're quite clever. However, with Janice Hallett's way of writing books and writing speech, where they can have texts, WhatsApps, respondents, emails, any of these sort of things, it allows a lot more personality, because the way you text, do you put a kiss? Do you put actual proper grammar? Do you put capital letters? Are you fun? Do you put emojis? Are you not fun? Are you formal? All of these different things are a huge personality indicator and allow for a bigger personality and a more clearer defined, I'm going to say it again, personality to, show within these characters. And it's really, really interesting, really, really powerful, really, really impressed. And there is a twist, as with all of Janice Hallett's books. Can I speak today? No, it's probably this spot on my nose that's it's taking all of my brain power. Janice Hallett's books, all of them are really, really brilliant, and as I said, they've got a twist. So that's The Mysterious Case of the Alberton Angels by Janice Hallett. Now, the next book on this list is the biggest surprise to me. The Housemaid by Frida McFadden was doing the rounds on social media. Everywhere I looked, people were like, Frida McFadden's The Housemaid is brilliant. It's got a twist in it that will blow your mind. I picked it up and thought, okay, I'll read it. Usually I guess the twists. Usually I know what's going on. Usually it's fine. I didn't have a clue with this one. It was brilliant. The twist in it really had me like, whoa, no, I didn't think that was going to be happening. And it's the way that Frida's managed to write the characters that enables that twist. I can't really give you much more information on that than that. The story of The Housemaid is essentially about a woman whose name is never really mentioned, therefore I can't remember it off the top of my head, but she's a housemaid. She comes to work for this posh family. The wife, who is called Nina, is a little bit weird and starts to accuse her of things she definitely didn't do. She thinks, why are you trying to frame me for these things? The husband is incredibly kind, incredibly nice, there to nurture her. And that's essentially the story. It's really, really interesting. Things are tense. Things keep happening. You're thinking, how's that happening? Why is that happening? Etc. Therefore, it makes it really tense. As I said, the twist in the middle / the final third is fantastic. It really does blow the whole book up and make you think, okay, Frida was thinking about this the whole time. There's no way, I love how his first name's Northa. There's no way that she just randomly thought, oh, you know what? I'll put this instead. Really, really clever. The Housemaid lived up to the hype online. There is a sequel as well, which is an interesting kind of analysis of a book. If you've not read The Housemaid and you read The Housemaid's Secret, you'd have the exact same reaction to if you read The Housemaid. If you've read The Housemaid, it's very similar. You may be able to guess the twist because of how similar it is. Just a little heads up with that one. But I didn't want to rate The Housemaid's Secret lower because I understand from McFadden herself it's not technically a sequel. It is a sequel because it follows chronologically and there are notes to this one, but she wanted it to be also considered in its own light. But that's The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. The most surprising book on this list to me, because most books that are overhyped, I think are overhyped. This one wasn't. This one lived up to the hype. Really, really impressive thriller. The final book on this list is Sea States by James Simpson, which is the shiniest book on this list, so it's going to be tricky not to get the ring light in it. But Sea States by James Simpson was part of a list of books that you guys, my followers across all different social media, asked me to read in 2024. So at the start of the year, I said, okay, if you could recommend one book, what would it be? Sea State was one of those books. I read it throughout March, and it's ended up being one of my favourite books I've read recently. It was really, really impressive. J.M. Simpson herself, Jo is the name of her first name, is an indie author. She doesn't have a big publisher or anything like that. She posts on herself. It says designed by bespokebookcovers.com. So she even got some online company doing the front covers. Sea State covers the story, I've said covers too much there. Sea State is about the story of Doug and the story of Jesse. And Doug and Jesse have two interlinking stories. Jesse was in a job recently where she was attacked and had to leave. She wasn't attacked at work, but she left her job because there wasn't the support there for her, and the people there had some link to the person that attacked her. Doug is at the job that she then goes to, and in his personal life, he's struggling at home. His wife doesn't seem that interested in him or the kids or their family life or anything like that. They kind of then have this relationship, which is mostly a friendship, which just means that they've got support for each other. The job that they both do, the reason it's called Sea kind of State, is they work for a rescue company on the ocean, on the rivers, on water, etc. And they go out and save people. So interlinking with all of their personal story are these missions that they go on to save people's lives on the water, which is really, really interesting element. And the other thing that kept me really interested is, yes, it's a great kind of human being story, but the thing that really kept me interested was just after some of the chapters, there's clues that the person that originally attacked Jessie is still around and still watching her, and that keeps you very interested. Really, really good book. Surprised me at how good it was, and Jo herself as an author is absolutely lovely, so that helps. Didn't affect my opinion of the book at all. I would be honest about the book, even if Jo was lovely, and I'm sure because she's lovely, she'd be appreciative of any feedback. But The Sea State was really, really fantastic. I've got the second book ready to go, and I'm looking forward to picking that one up as well. So that's the final book in the list of 5 thrillers that I've got on this list. So let's have a look at all of them together and try and order them. So here are the 5 books. If you want to hold them like this, like that, that's upside down, I don't know. Here we go. It's difficult to get them in focus. Here. There we go. They're the 5 books. So you've got Sea State by James Simpson, The Housemaid by Freida McFadden, The Mysterious Case of Alberton Angels by Janice Hallett, Will Dean's The Last Thing to Burn, and We Begin at the End by Chris Whitaker. Now, if I had to put these in an order of least favourite to favourite, even though remember they are my 5 favourite of all time. My cat, by the way, this whole video, if you can hear jingling, has been decided to use this time in his day to play with boxes, to run around, to jump behind the sofa in here, everything. So if you can hear jingling, that's why. Anyway, if I had to place these in an order, I would probably put them, let's see. So my most favourite would probably be this. So let's stick that at the front. Let's just keep these up so I can keep them going. I would say The Housemaid's probably my least favourite. Sea State is I would say that it would go like, let's go with this order. In order of most to least favourite is We Begin at the End, Mysterious Case of Alberton Angels, Sea State, Last Thing to Burn, in The Housemaid. This is fantastic, this is fantastic, this is fantastic, this is fantastic, this is the least fantastic. That's simply how that list works. Really, really great set of thrillers. I couldn't recommend 5 thrillers more. There's loads of other ones I've read as well. A lot of people may be surprised to see I've not got any Lisa Jewell or Claire Douglas or Claire McIntosh or any of these big authors on here. That's not because their thrillers aren't fantastic. I just think these ones went a little bit above that. There's something a little bit different. There's a bit more story than usual thrillers in We Begin at the End. Clever theme, sorry, to Mysterious Case of Alberton Angels. Sea State has just got a human fantastic story. I've never been gripped by a book or scared by a book as much as Will Dean's The Last Thing to Burn. And The Housemaid just lived up to a hype and had a twist that is next to The Silent Patient in terms of how fantastic it was. So they're the 5 books. Let me know which 5 books you would recommend or which one thriller you would recommend. I'm really on a thriller hype at the moment, so I'm really willing to just listen to anything. Until then, thank you for watching. If you haven't yet clicked the subscribe button, what are you doing? Go just click it, and then click like, and then comment, and do all of the things, and share it with your friends, post it on Twitter, post it on Instagram. Can you posting a video to YouTube video to Instagram would be a pain, but do it anyway. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.